Welcome back to the channel, boys, and today I'm coming at your neck with a new Diamond Lance build. Now, in the most recent patch, Diamond Lance got a huge, absolutely huge buff, and then once I read that, I knew I had to try it out. So we made a build around it. We're going to try to spawn as many Diamond Lance as possible, and we have a couple of other things going, ability spam, as well as just general survivability with protective light. So let me just go ahead and jump right in. So like I said in the beginning of the video, Diamond Lance got a massive buff in the most recent patch. It reads here, Diamond Lance now has an increased fragment slot allowance from 1 to 3 fragment slots. That means that if you combine it with Howl of the Storm, like I'm doing in this build right here, you can have a total of 5 fragments. Boys, that is 5 fragments. That is absolutely insane. There's just so much build potential here. It also states that Diamond Lances will not spawn upon killing PvE combatants with stasis weapons, killing 3 players with stasis weapons without dying, that is a PvP change, killing an enemy with a stasis ability, and shattering an enemy. So now Diamond Lances are going to spawn so much more easier, so much more frequently, and this is just a good all-around change for Diamond Lance, because although it was fun, it is very fun, it was, I guess, difficult if you didn't spec into it to spawn these Diamond Lances. So now just using a stasis weapon will even just spawn them, which is nice. It's very nice. And the 3 fragment slots, boys, this is insane. So with all these changes in mind, we're going to utilize cold snap grenades, because I do notice that once you freeze an enemy with cold snap grenades and then kill them, I guess it counts as like an ability kill. So we'll spawn a Diamond Lance, or maybe shattering. I guess is the shattering part. And like I said, we're also using Howl of the Storm, and we're using Diamond Lance. And as for our fragments, we're using Whisper of Bonds, so I can get bonus super energy. I want to spawn my super a lot. I only have 10 intellect, so we're going to try to combat that with Whisper of Bonds. We're using Whisper of Torment, so whenever I take damage, I get grenade energy. I also have very low discipline. As you guys can see, I have 8 discipline, so that's one way I'm going to help that out. We're using Whisper of Fracture, so whenever I'm in the fight, I'm going to be up close and personal. I get my melee to respawn faster, or recharge faster. We're using Whisper of Fissure, so my stasis just does more damage. And then we're also using Whisper of Shards, so when I do shatter these stasis crystals from Howl of the Storm, I get a boost to my grenade recharge rate. Again, I have very low discipline, so that's another way I'm going to combat that. So I just want to say before I explain my loadout, we're going full send into ability spam, because that's my favorite thing to do in this game. And abilities kind of got a bunch of buffs, like stasis crystals got a buff, a lot of grenades got buffs, a lot of abilities got buffs, but their cooldowns got increased, or some of them got decreased. So with that in mind, we're going to use Traveler's Chosen on top of all the other ways I'm going to get my grenade back, my melee back, whatever. I want to go full send into ability spam. This also has osmosis, so this is going to help me spawn Diamond Lances once I throw a grenade. And then as for my other 2 weapons, it really doesn't matter. I mean, sometimes I use Null Composure. I was also using my Cartesian Coordinate, using Code Duello, Linear Fusion. You can kind of change these around as much as you want, just as long as you're using Traveler's Chosen, preferably Masterwork. Now, moving on to my stats here. Now, a lot of these stats are just kind of rendered obsolete, besides recovery, really, because recovery is how I get my health back. But as far as like my resilience, my strength, my discipline, I'm using Traveler's Chosen. Plus I have like Heart of Inmost Light on, Whisper of Shards, Whisper of Torment, Shatter Palm. So my abilities are going to come back very fast, but I really wanted to focus on recovery because I think I'm using better already. But other than that, like I'm not a Warlock, so I don't have a Healing Rift. I'm not using Crest of Alpha Loopy to get my health back. Just straight up recovery. So it's very important, because that's the one way I'm going to be able to stay in the fight. I am also using Protective Light, so that's going to allow me to take more damage. And as far as my discipline and my intellect stat, my discipline's 8 and my intellect is 10. So although those 2 are very low, especially my discipline, I'm going to regenerate so much ability energy, it's crazy. Same thing with my super. Since it's 10, it does say, let's see, a 13 minute 17-second cooldown, but using Whisper of Bonds, I'm going to completely combat that, because it's just going to freeze so many enemies and shatter them that I'm going to get nice chunks of super energy. Now moving on to my mods. On my helmet, I'm using 2 really important mods. Well, I guess you can really say 3. I'm double stacking Hands On. You don't really have to do this, but I'm going to be getting a lot of melee kills. So again, this is another way, and I'm going to come back my very low intellect stat. And then we're also using Elemental Light. Defeating combatant with your super spawns an elemental well that matches your subclass energy type. I do believe that I actually have on Font of Wisdom. So this is actually, I'm going to make up for my very low intellect stat in more ways than I thought. Now I'm thinking about it and talking it through. my super is going to come back very quickly because of all the mods and the little fragments and whatever I have on. So, you know, 8 intellect or 10 intellect, it's really much different than that, although I wish it would show it whenever you do have these mods on. On my gauntlets, the 2 most important mods here are grenade kickstart, so whenever I do use my grenade and it's expended, I get grenade energy for doing so. And then we're also using melee well maker, powered melee combatant final blows, spawn elemental wells matching your subclass energy type. Going to be using Howl of the Storm a lot, so I'm going to spawn a lot of stasis elemental wells. And moving on to my chest piece, we're using Heart of Inmost Light. This is probably my most favorite Titan exotic right now because it's just literally focused around ability spam. It reads here for anybody who doesn't know: Overflowing Light, using an ability, grenade, melee, or barricade, empowers your other 2 abilities. Empowered abilities mean they have a faster regen, melees and grenades do more damage, and barricades have more hit points. So pretty much if I'm using just any of my abilities, the other 2 are going to get very buffed up and they're going to take more damage, or they're going to do more damage. So I'm really loving this exotic. It's an old one, kind of an old one now, but it's just very potent. Now as for the mods, really the only important mod we have on here is Font of Wisdom. Picking up an elemental well that matches your subclass energy type grants you a temporary significant increase in your intellect, improving the recharge rate of your super. Now super regen, like passive super regen, did get a nerf, so I figured I would throw this on to kind of help that out because I'm already using low intellect, and since that did get a nerf, might as well just use Font of Wisdom to kind of mitigate some of that nerf that they did. But I'm going to get most of my super energy from killing frozen enemies, so I'm not really too worried about it. On my legs, we have 2 really important mods. So the first one is Better Already. Like I said, picking up an Orb of Power is going to give me some health back or start my health regen. I also have very high recovery, so this is going to allow me to stay in the fight just a little bit longer. And the other important mod we're using is Protective Light. While charged with light, you gain a significant damage resistance against combatants when your shields are destroyed. This effect consumes all stacks of charged with light. The more stacks consumed, the longer the damage resistance lasts. It does take away 10 strength, but that's okay because I think Protective Light is literally, it might be the best mod for any activity in general, just because it is such a significant damage resist buff that you can take so much damage. It saves your life all the time, especially in high-end content like if you're doing GMs, day 1 raids, and master dungeon. Like, this is a must-have mod because you're gonna notice it save your life in so many different situations. It's insane. And then we're also using Absolution. Now you could put a scavenger mod here if you really wanted to, but I didn't really care about that. So Absolution reduces all ability cooldowns each time you pick up an Orb of Power. Again, I'm going full send into ability spam, so I figured it would be the best thing for me to use Absolution. And on my Titan mark, we have 2 really important mods here. We're double stacking Outreach, so whenever I do pop my barricade, I get a nice chunk of melee energy. Besides Shatter Palm and the 100 strength, I really wanted to get a way to kind of boost up my melee ability cooldown, or I guess reduce it, however you want to look at it, but it gives me a chunk of melee energy. So Outreach is really good and is really one of my favorite mods in the game too. And we're also using Elemental Charge. Become charged with light by picking up an elemental well. If the elemental well's element type matches your subclass element, you gain 2 stacks of charged with light. It's literally like a tongue twister, some of these mods. But since I'm going to be spawning a lot of stasis elemental wells, picking those up is going to allow me to proc Protective Light whenever I need it. So this is a really good mod for any type of elemental well, but if you're kind of trying to dabble in both, like charge with light and elemental well, you need to use Elemental Charge because it's very good. And onto my Titan fashion, I'm absolutely loving this new helmet from the 30th anniversary like Xur thing. It is freaking awesome, man. It looks like kind of like an evil like knight, dragon knight thing. So we kind of went with that look, and we use some wolves on our shoulders here. We just went with like an all black look because I think it looks really cool. And as for my shaders and ornaments, here's everything. So if you want to pause that, screenshot it, you're more than welcome to use this. I'm so happy that Bungie is finally buffing Behemoth because it needed some love, and I miss playing this subclass. I think it sounds cool, it's fun to use, and I just love the whole idea of it. But now with these buffs to Diamond Lance, you can have 3 fragment slots. I cannot even emphasize how strong that is. That is definitely the strongest change, more than how easy it is to spawn the Diamond Lance. Even if they just gave it hey, now it's 3 fragment slots and that's it, I think that would definitely warrant a good enough buff in my opinion. Because now, if I was going to take Behemoth into endgame such as GMs, although I don't really think you would need a Behemoth in endgame, but just in case if you wanted to, you could do it. And I wouldn't run Diamond Lance because now you can have 3 fragment slots. Like, that's so potent. So you can do, maybe if you want to have a team of all stasis users and you are just the one creating the stasis crystals for Whispers of Chains, so that way everybody has a nice damage resist buff whenever there's stasis crystals near you. Like, you can be that guy and you can have all these fragment slots on, and plus then you just have Diamond Lances. So if you spawn a Diamond Lance, you can maybe freeze an enemy that's very far away, like a sniper or something. So Diamond Lance is definitely much more potent in my opinion now. Now, do these changes put it above any of the other subclasses? I honestly would say no, in my opinion, because I think Behemoth is one of the weakest subclasses in the game. And I definitely think it is the weakest subclass for Titan, because like if you're gonna use Void, you got Bubble, you got just the middle tree with the Commander Shield, the Banner Shield, and bottom tree if you want to, suppress enemies. It maybe is tied for bottom tree Void, but I mean, whatever. Like, I still think that Void has a lot of good utility because it can suppress people and everything. It's good for PvP, right? For Arc, I mean, you got Thunder Crash. Enough said. That's literally it. Bottom tree Striker is good for PvP. Top tree if you want to have double grenades and do more damage with your super. Solar, I mean, Solar is just amazing. You got middle tree with the buff throwing hammer if you want to do a bunch of crazy boss damage. Bottom tree with the sunspots, and if you're using Phoenix Cradle, you can give it to your teammates. Top tree for the debuff. I mean, I just feel like the Titan has so many other good subclasses. Like, why would I even use Behemoth? They are giving it some love, but I just think, Behemoth as a whole, it's just like, it's about shattering the crystals, right? It's about creating crystals and shattering crystals. So if I was going to use that in an end game content, like, I feel like you're putting yourself in such a danger to go shatter these stasis crystals, which is a huge problem, because if the whole idea is shattering the stasis crystals, but then if you won't have to go and put yourself in danger to go shatter these stasis crystals, it's not really a good feel for the subclass, and it's just weak, man. It was so good when it first launched, and then they nerfed it, and now it just feels terrible. So hopefully they keep buffing it, because I think it needs it. I don't know what they would do. Maybe it's so dangerous, because if you buff it a little bit too much, it becomes OP. So I have no idea where I would go with it, but definitely it needs some more love, and Diamond Lance buffs is definitely a step in the right direction. So I hope they do more of that. But if you guys like this content, please like, subscribe, and share. It truly helps me out a lot. You guys check out my other videos, links in the description below. I have a lot of crazy builds, go ahead and check that out. And I also am starting a Twitch, so definitely go ahead and hit that follow button on my Twitch account. It would really mean a lot to me. But with all that being said, deuces.